Ladies and gentlemen, it is the 27th day of February, 2013 on this Wednesday edition. We are now into the second hour. Wow. Howard Stern yesterday, and they said they had a record landslide vote of their Howard Stern fan club, Howard Stern TV members, and 79%, I was driving in this morning and heard it, said that I was the best part of the show. And again, you're like, well, that's a horrible, vulgar, whatever show. The point is the media listens, it's very popular, and that's how we wake people up to the New World Order, is by going out there and going on Piers Morgan and going on Howard Stern's show and talking to Robin and getting Michael Savage on here. This is the success of liberty. This is what we can do. Expect to get more affiliates. Expect to win battles. Evil is not invincible. We aired a piece last night of a famous lady in Romania who fought against Ceausescu and then beat him in court, got kicked out of the country, but helped wake others up, and she and others' activities led to the final overthrow of one of the most brutal dictators in the Soviet era there in their satellites. You are the resistance. You have power. Most people that are part of the corrupt system have never thought about it. They believe the false reasons they've been given for it. But as things get more oppressive, as things get more obvious, and as things unfold that Katherine Albrecht and myself and Ron Paul and G. Edward Griffin and countless others, Bob Chapman, the list goes on, as more and more of what we talk about manifest and people see the ugly side of RFID, or face scanning, biometrics to buy and sell, or drones, or checkpoints, or arbitrary courts, or the police state, or psychotropic drugs. As all this manifests, people are going to remember the seeds we planted today. I can't tell you how many times I plant wildflowers on my little 9-acre plot of land outside Austin, and they sprout better the next year than the year I planted them then, because wildflowers kind of sprout when they like the weather. And so I planted stuff 2 years ago that just is starting to sprout even better than it did, and I didn't plant this year. We're having kind of an early, hope it isn't a fall spring. It's the same thing. It's like rocks in the pond, as it's been said a billion times, send out ripples forever. Just keep throwing rocks in the pond, ignore the enemy propaganda, and understand that we're going to take humanity back. And that if you ask God to help you and just trust in God, as the last piece we aired broke down, that God will take you the rest of the way. And that even if bad things happen to you, which usually don't happen, actually. She was talking about how surprised she was, the lady that fought the Ceausescu, that it was the enemy that was scared. It was the system that freaked out. That's why they tried to intimidate, because they are the ones that are afraid. We don't need to be afraid of the New World Order. We need to be afraid of not resisting them and letting them fully take over. We can control our own destiny with God's help. Now, for this rest of the hour and then 30 minutes into the hour after that, speaking of an example of resistance, Dr. Katherine Albrecht hosts a syndicated radio program right here on the GCN Radio Network. The Katherine Albrecht Show is a highly effective privacy campaigner and sought-after public speaker and technology expert and author of numerous best-selling books and films. A popular media commentator and dynamic radio personality, she has spearheaded the worldwide movement against RFID tracking going all over the world and implant technology since 2003. Her unique brand of knowledge, coupled with her passion and truth for freedom, have earned her a devoted listening following, and she also does great news vignettes. KatherineAlbrecht.com, spyships.com, WordPress.com, KatherineAlbrecht.com. And she's here in Texas with the report we broke, I don't know, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, whatever it was, that then got into the news, with the family where they told the daughter, you've got to wear an RFID chip. Even when you leave and go on the school bus, you have all the reports where they're watching kids on their laptops at home. Court says that's okay. Big brother. You know, it's okay to have cameras in the toilets. It's okay to make people thumbprint to buy and sell. The banks are now demanding it. What will they do once the cashless society's in? Turn off your thumbprint if you're not a good globalist. They've said that. A no-fly list, a no-gun-buy list. That's why this is so important. Add fees. You know, you got a Bank of America card, $5 every time you use your money. There was a backlash today, but Bank of America said, we're getting with the other banks. We're going to do it all together so you have nowhere to run. And Katherine Albrecht joins us to get into all of this and where we are today, and to dovetail it with this article. For TV viewers, you can see it here on the document cam. Activists launch campaign against autonomous weapons killer robots must be stopped. Now, I've been saying this for 15, 16 years when I read what MIT had planned. All Air Force will be drones. All combat troops will be robots. And a robot can be a Humvee that is robotically controlled, but also self-picking its own targets, autonomous as they call them, with a large semi-auto or full-auto 50 cal missiles. Now, I saw this 14 years ago at Urban Warfare Drills, and I talked to Marines off record, including a colonel, that were like, listen, Jones, this is nothing. You ought to see what we've got. This is 20 years old. And I said, well, what is it? And they said, well, you've seen movies like this, seen movies like that. Then I got in contact with some of them afterwards, and they told me what they'd seen, just like those stealth helicopters you saw crash in the Bin Laden raid, the so-called Bin Laden raid. Yeah, I mean, that was like 30-year-old stuff. Folks, they got stuff that will blow your mind, and they want to roll it all out because the automated system can just be programmed by the globalists and forget the military saying no, like Ceausescu's people in Romania or Operation Valkyrie when the German military tried to overthrow Hitler. You get rid of that when it's all the robots. And with our tax money, they're building this technocracy. That's really when I woke up Howard Stern yesterday and Robin, was I said, you know, Bill Joy wrote in Wired Magazine, The Future Doesn't Need Us. He went to an elite meeting. They said they plan to get rid of the vast majority of the public. And that's in all the technocracy publications. And Howard's like, well, there are too many people. I go, yeah, but they're going to get rid of you too. Did you get a memo not to drink fluoride water? No, Howard, you're being targeted. And see, as soon as people get that, doesn't matter you're worth $300 million, Howard. You're not in the top technocracy. You didn't write Ecoscience. You don't get to go to moon-based Moonraker, which is really going to be underground. They're not going off-world for this bioweapon release. You're dead. You're dead, Howard Stern. Robin's dead. I'm dead. We're all dead. You better either wake up to this or it's all over. I've seen their master plan. They've written it down. They're arrogant about it. Now, on the ground, fighting it everywhere. Actually, they're focusing on this, and it's important whether you focus on everything like I do or you focus mainly on this and a bunch of other subjects she does as tertiary. It's important to pick your cross and carry it, and it will empower you. People think of fighting tyranny as horrible. It's the animating contest, as Thomas Jefferson said. Okay, that's my introduction. You're with us for the next hour and 20 minutes or so. Dr. Katherine Albrecht, from Harvard degree in your research of this tyranny. First off, before we get into specifics, what is the state of the globe, the state of the battle against the tyrants right now?
Well, I'm going to tell you, this whole move towards getting people accepting what's happening in the last 10 years has just been mind-blowing. It's to the point now where stuff that I used to be able to talk about 10 years ago that was, you know, I could say, hey, they're going to start tracking you through your shoes, and people would go, that's terrible, let's fight it. Nowadays, I say they're going to track you through your shoes, and they say, yeah, they already tracked me through my cell phone. They're tagging kids now, as you know, at Walt Disneyland, Walt Disney World, with the RFID
total conditioning
on their right hand. So now you've got kids going, you know, the happiest place in the world, the best event of my life. I went to Disneyland. I got tagged with an RFID tag on my right wrist. I'm going to associate that now with fun. So I think what's happening from my perspective in the battle is that it's getting harder to fight because it's getting harder for people to actually recognize that there's a fight that needs to occur. So as these technologies move forward, even there in San Antonio at the schools, a lot of the parents say, yeah, I guess, track my kid. What's the big deal?
It's a normalcy bias.
It is.
It's a Stockholm syndrome.
And it's new. It's new. This was not the case 10 years ago. When I first started fighting RFID, all I had to say was they're going to track you, and people went, we got to stop it. Now I say they're going to track you, and they're like, yeah, and your point? You know.
No,
so,
it's like, hey, the NSA is listening to you illegally. Yeah. Hey, they're torturing people, including their kids. Well, you got to torture kids. I mean, that's Christian.
It is. It's like the normalization of torture, the normalization of the kinds of foods we eat, the normalization of the expectation we're all going to be sick and chronically ill, that's just part of life.
By the way, congratulations beating breast cancer.
Thank you.
With God's help.
Thank you. Absolutely. That was quite
How is that going?
That's actually going really well, and I'm going to be starting a new clinical trial at Cornell in New York with a woman who I actually believe may have cured breast cancer.
Well, you know, they've come up with a lot of cures or treatments that are close to cures, but they get shelved.
Right.
The establishment does.
This one's interesting because it's being run through Cornell, which is an actual academic university. They're certainly in the inner circle, if you want to call it that. But because the drug itself, it's called tetrathiomolybdate. It's just an ammonium salt of molybdenum, you know, from the periodic table. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have a patent on it. There's no pharmaceutical company making anything off of it. It's cheap enough you could salt the roads with it, and it seems to prevent recurrence of breast cancer and other cancers as well. And she's not getting the big pharmaceutical, you know, funding to do all the clinical trials, but they're doing the trials anyway, funded by just donations. So it is kind of fun to watch from within the inside to see an alternative
to
cure.
see the life force still caring.
Absolutely. And a cure that's not going to make anybody any money. It's not going to make anybody super rich because there's no patent on it.
But there's the real wealth of your women in your life not dying.
Oh, my goodness. No kidding.
Expanding on that, why do you think, from your research, breast cancer is skyrocketing?
I think it's the estrogens. I think it's the fact that virtually everything we eat is in plastic.
The printer ink, bisphenol A.
The printer ink, now it's going to be in our dollar bills. They're going to have the plastic carbonates everywhere. I think we're just drowning in estrogenic substances.
That's right. They picked a bisphenol A to print the plastic in the new dollar bills when there's no need. It's just like, here, kill yourself.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, as you point out with the water, the things that they're adding to the water, now they're finding that even the BPA-free plastics, as I believe you've pointed out recently, those BPA-free plastics themselves now are being shown to be highly estrogenic.
So it makes men lethargic, fat, and unhealthy, and makes women hyperfeminized, but accelerates the aging of the tissues.
Well, and not just hyperfeminized, it causes cancer.
Yeah.
It triggers breast cancer.
But, I mean, Catherine, the government loves us. You know, the good news, Michael Savage was on, and he said they're putting stuff in the water and the food to do this to men and women. I mean, he's saying it. The point is, we're reaching the point, though, where people admit it's going on. Next, they'll be like, so the government's killing me. That's loving. Dr. Katherine Albrecht's our guest. We are being inserted into the matrix. The children, Catherine was just telling me during the break, you know, they have the new children training potties with the little insertion area for the iPad or iPod. People are just totally not... You go out to restaurants now, myself included, no one's even talking or communicating. They're all clicking, clicking, clicking. That's why I've decided the next few weeks I'm going to take off a full week. We're going to have guest hosts, you name it. No computers. I'm taking my wife and kids to a cabin or something. No computers, no cell phones, no nothing. We've got to get out of the matrix. I mean, I know all this, and I can't stay out of it. I want to get into the specifics of the battle and what's happening, but, I mean, what is first and foremost on your radar, Catherine, right now in this fight to expose that not technology's not bad, but the way it's being deployed by the technocrats is with Trojan horses for control? And what, from your research, do you think they're trying to build? Do you concur with my technocracy analysis?
I do, and I, of course, add the spiritual component, that I believe that what we're building is the body of the beast. Satan, from the very beginning, has wanted the powers of God, the power to be omniscient, to know everything about everyone, to be omnipotent, to have the power to create and destroy life, to create and destroy worlds. These are all things that, you know, as you look closer at the battle, you begin to recognize that it is a spiritual battle. And I believe that what we're creating with all of the surveillance, all of the cameras are, you know, the eyes of the beast, all of the microphones on the buses and the microphones that they want to put into our homes, they are the ears of the beast. And ultimately, you know, we've created this web. And you think about the phrase web. What is a web? Where there's a web, there's a spider.
Wow.
Or we call it the net. What is a net? It's a trap. So somewhere there is going to be a spider who's going to come and occupy this web that we've created, and it will have reached its tentacles into every aspect of our lives at that point. So, you know, it's almost like sensing like you've got the Calistoga wagons and everybody's just out there camping and having a great time, but you don't realize they're being surrounded by the enemies all around. And there comes a moment when they're just going to leap out and say, we're going to pull the noose now. So
they already are. They're already saying, no judge, no jury, you can't own a gun, veteran. You're in a technocracy now. Face scan to buy and sell. It's all going in right now. The spider's already sitting there. It's a eugenics-based worldwide extermination grid, and I've studied the elite. They happen to be Luciferians. You're right. It's a giant, murderous, blood-drinking spider that worships Lucifer. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's called the beast. And its eyes, its compound eyes are just everywhere. And it's growing more of them. And now it's launching in the sea, the air. It's smart dust. You know,
the companies themselves talk about this. And if people say, oh, Catherine, she's just this Christian, and, you know, you don't have to listen to that. Much of this comes from the other side.
No, though they say it will achieve consciousness, and then we, the elect, will merge with it.
Yes, absolutely. They are the ones giving it this religious spin.
They're the high priests that plan on climbing into it, as if it's going to let them climb into it.
Exactly. And you've got now Ray Kurzweil, who is the head of engineering now for Google. He's the guy who looks forward to the singularity when we actually merge with these machines.
And he says we're like bugs.
He says we're like bugs.
Yeah, and if you don't merge with the cybernetic system, well, it's like stepping on a bug.
My goodness. All right. Well, and what they're aiming for, and again, taking it back to this idea that Satan wants the powers of God, it's a form of immortality, which I believe is hell. It's this idea that you will be able to live forever. Upload your soul. Take your consciousness out of this meat package that you call a body.
Upload it into the beast.
And upload it into the computer network.
Into Satan's mind.
So you can live forever. And, you know, you look at the people who fall down the rat hole, for example, of World of Warcraft, you know, who are so immersed in that world that their real world, their bodies go to hell, they're not healthy, they lose their relationships, they lose their jobs because they're immersed in something that's just in their heads.
Who was that lady you had on, the researcher, talking about what the video games are doing to people?
I've had a number of...
Maybe we should have you talk about that.
Fascinating stuff that's happening with the video games because...
These men don't want to be with their wives. The women don't. They just... You hear people die playing video games for like 3 days straight.
They do, especially over in China. They've now... You'll love this one, Alex, because talk about tyranny. The government in China now is supervising people's use of the internet because they have all these online interactive games. And if you play more than 4 hours in China, they actually begin removing the characteristics of your character. So your character starts getting weaker and slower, and they take away gold, and his weapons don't fire anymore. So the Chinese government is actually observing people's...
Because they want to keep their biological androids functioning well, but as they build the computers, you heard at Foxconn when the humans were all committing suicide last year, they said, we're going to go to robots. They tried robots. They're still not ready. So, believe me, once they're ready to kill them, they'll turn on the video games that are so addicting, people are going to sit there till they die. They already have the Flickr algorithm. And then everyone will just die, and then the robots replace us.
Well, and what's if you tie this in with Ray Kurzweil's vision, it's that we would voluntarily, because the world is going to become so polluted, because our bodies will be so chronically broken, because there will no longer be any butterflies or trees or flowers or plants, because everything's going to be dark and burned out, you're going to, at that point, want to upload yourself into the beautiful forest in the video game.
And that's why they're trying to wreck the world on purpose while claiming they're environmentalists and then having the seed arcs and vaults because they plan on destroying it, but then Lucifer will remake it beautiful. He's just destroying it to rebuild it. Oh, Lucifer. We'll be right back.
We're on the mark.
That's right. When you go along with evil and corruption and don't at least recognize it, you're turning away. It's a sin. And you're allowing everything to rot around you. A nightmare world is being built, and at the middle of it is a wicked, anti-human, technocratic spider. The elites call themselves this. Not just Ray Kurzweil. Yeah, they had a technology at Google. All of them. We have their quotes in Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. And I love how the New York Times a few years ago talked about Endgame. And it was back when they were saying there was no Bilderberg, and Obama and Hillary didn't meet at Chantilly, even though it was all on record later. And they said that Jones believes the elite are going to merge with machines and fly around the solar system. I was quoting Ray Kurzweil. I was and it's said in the film where they said it. It's on record. And technocrats saying we may just blow the earth up for the power, you know, just because we want to exercise the power. All this crazy stuff. And Kurzweil goes and has events with all the top Hollywood. William Shatner, who's a nice guy, but he wants to live forever. He says it. And they offer him, you're going to live forever. You're going to live forever. This is how you do it. And then we're just accepting their plan of how we're going to, quote, evolve. And then I look at everything else they do. It actually is devolving us. Now, Catherine, we've had some nice banter for a few segments, some great back and forth, but I want to get back into, at the core of your research, what they're building, who they are, the spiritual side, because they say it's spiritual. Ray Kurzweil said he doesn't believe in God yet. They will become God. That's a quote.
Idea, yeah.
Yeah, merging with the machine. So you've got the floor. I'm gonna sit back.
Yeah, when you think about just biblically, and a lot of what you're saying is about come out. You know, in Revelation, we're actually told, and also in Daniel, the two prophetic books in the Bible, come out of Babylon. That there's going to come a time when it's going to become so corrupt that if you stay in, you will either become a part of the problem, or you will become completely corrupted and destroyed. So, you know, come out of her, my people, lest you be partakers of her sins and receivers of her plagues. And so we know, you can look around and you can see it happening. And what's interesting now, I was saying it's a more frustrating battle now than it was 10 years ago because people don't get what it is that we're fighting or why you would even bother fighting against it. But in a way, it's also an easier battle. Because what I've found is that even when I'm sitting on an airplane, if I start talking about these issues with people and talk about how the world's going in the wrong direction, everybody nods and says, yeah, I feel it too. You know, that there's something coming for us. Everybody has this feeling of almost a predator after the prey. And I think we're all beginning
the spirit is warning them.
We're feeling this sense, the get out, run, something's coming.
The spirit.
Everyone's feeling it. And in that sense, I think, and of course, ever since my cancer battle, I don't know how many more years I'll even be here. So I've been much more open about sharing what I believe is the real end game, what's really
Did that boost your discernment facing death?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it put me in a completely different place. I was just speaking to a wonderful friend last night who was helping out here as I'm traveling around and saying, for the first time in my life, I actually feel wise. I feel that I've gained some wisdom from that. And that's been just an incredible, incredible positive journey. I never thought I'd say thank you that I had cancer, but I think that I am actually grateful for what I
Well, accepting death is a real booster in discernment, because then you don't have all the petty things blocking your spiritual vision anymore.
Well, and I think also the stuff I used to think mattered, you know, being respected or testifying before the Federal Trade Commission or having the governor appoint me as the expert member of the study commission on RFID, all of those accolades that the world gives you, all of that recognition that I used to really crave and think was so important. And I have to say at this point, you know, because I kept my mouth shut, I didn't really say what I thought was actually happening. I kept my Christian views to myself. I kept my spiritual views under wraps, because you can't go saying that and then expect that the Federal Trade Commissioner is going to take you seriously. But since having cancer, I have really come to the point where I say what I know and I mean what I say. And I don't really care if people agree or disagree at this point. So it's a new place, and it's a good place. And
You're free.
I'd like for us to become that way a little bit more.
You're free. So get into the nature of it. Get into the technocracy, and then we'll get into specifics how it's working. But I mean, get into the big picture, because that was
when you look at what IBM talks about, and I fly a lot, so I've gone through a lot of airports, and they've got this big smarter planet, you know, up on all the airports up high. They've got all these billboards. It must cost them millions to put all this up about the smarter planet. And the smarter planet's built on RFID. It's built on all of this sensor network, and they talk about the planetary skin. That the actual planet will develop a skin and be able to sense everything that occurs on it. The Internet of Things, which is the RFID network that I've been fighting all these years, the Internet of Things is the idea that every physical object would be reporting home to the global brain. That you would have this consciousness that would be aware of everything, every tree in every forest, every frog in every pond, every move that you make, every piece of paper you pick up, all of it would be monitored and observed by this centralized brain. And the way they're going to do it is through the RFID system. So somehow they're going to put, and they've been talking about this since 2003, put tiny sensors on every physical object, build it right into every physical object on the globe, so that as the thing begins to, as the consciousness sort of comes in and occupies the infrastructure that's been built for it, that consciousness will use those as sort of nerve endings to know everything. And the scariest thing that I think I've heard all year is the spray-on nanotechnology antennas. So there is a company, they're called, I want to say Camtech, C-H-A-M or
that you'll run drones with.
Yeah, so this is actually a different one. This is a surveillance technology or an antenna technology. So let's say, for example, Alex, right now that everything in this room had an RFID tag, or your shirt, your underwear, my top, my shoes, whatever, had an RFID tag, and we went out into the woods. We couldn't be tracked.
There it is.
Because there's no reader. There you go. That's it. Spray-on antenna, wireless in a can. So what these guys have developed, and if you scroll down, you'll see a picture of a tree. All right, see that tree there? It'd be great if you could zoom in and see that it just looks like a regular tree. So there are military antennas that cost a fortune, and they lug them out into Afghanistan so that they can transmit to airplanes or to base stations. What they can do now is take this spray-on antenna, spray it on the tree, and the tree itself becomes the antenna that broadcasts and transmits. You could do this to every tree in the forest, and now you and I are walking through the woods, and the trees are actually monitoring us, and they have a range these trees can send to a passing airplane. And eventually they will be able to transmit to satellites. So what this has done is it's taken the RFID thing that I've been working on all these years. And the piece I've been working on is they want to put the chips on everything. But the real issue is, where are the readers? And once you can do this, you can actually, you could spray the wall. You could paint the walls with this. You could cover every surface on planet Earth.
Smart dust.
And track everything all the time. Well, the dust is the trackable part.
These are the antennas.
These are the receivers.
Keep going.
So anything you can paint with this technology, anything you can paint with this would be capable of picking up all of your signals and emissions.
Did you know Clifford Carnicom, just to interrupt, I have to, I can't help it. Clifford Carnicom told me like 13 years ago on air, and of course he worked, I think it was the Forest Service, and he wouldn't say everything off air, and then he wouldn't go back on shows anymore. He kind of disappeared, I guess because of threats, is what I heard. He said they're spraying the aluminum dioxide to get into the trees, and they're going to drop some type of other reading substance on it later, but that's all I was told. And he had like Department of Energy sources. And I heard that, and I thought, that's a little out there. And then it just clicked when you were saying that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, it would be possible. You could fly over a forest of trees with this dust and turn your trees into antennas that would actually be broadcasting up to space. So, and the problem with this is it's invisible. You would never know that this paint was even underneath the wall paint of a room that you were in, and then that room could become an actual sort of RFID chamber picking up all these signals. So when we're talking about this web, and something shocked me the other day, it was the realization that we've only had iPhones since 2006 or 2007. I want to say it was 2007 that was introduced. Can you believe that it's only been 6 years that this technology came out?
And they're ubiquitous. It's like part of your body.
Everyone is staring into the device and clicking and thumbing. And if you don't have one, you're behind the times. This is a 6-year-old technology, Alex. And so now you say, well, if we're all carrying around now our unique sort of global brain connectors because we're checking into this thing that's linking us to the global brain. And now all they have to do is build the remainder of the infrastructure, and it's done.
And then launch the drones to kill us.
No, there's many ways they can kill us. Drones are just one.
And that's why Bill Joy, I go back to that 1,000 times, wrote Why the Future Doesn't Need Us back in 2000 in April. And he said, I went to an elite conference with other billionaires, and we said, do we kill everybody or just let people play video games and have a good time? And the answer was, that's bad for the earth. We're going to kill everybody. And then their answer is, we tell you we're going to kill you and you don't care. Well, you know what? I care and you care.
Yeah, and one of the ways that they're killing people, and I've observed this. If you go into even just a standard supermarket and you look at the extra large tub of peanut butter versus the little small thing of peanut butter, the extra large tub of peanut butter, which is meant for the big prodigious families, contains horrible ingredients that aren't in the small container. I've been noticing this lately. That the bulk containers...
No, the technocracy admits they've done that for themselves as escape doors.
Absolutely.
But as they shut it down, the eugenicists are now discovering, first it was 80% they were going to kill. Then it was 90% in their literature. Now they're going, actually, we're going to kill 99%. And so the people that are part of it are begging, what do I do to be part of that? Wow. And this is a whole cult where they get off. I'll see them out in public. I go, you're a professor, aren't you? You're a eugenicist. I'm not talking to you, Jones. This happened 2 weeks ago at a coffee shop because I could tell the guy was looking at me going, oh, yeah. And I went, you feel powerful because you're in on this. He was like, get away from me. But, I mean, the point is they're out there like a cult. It's like body snatchers.
Yeah, and even Nancy Pelosi, what was the first thing she did when she got elected to Congress? She redid the congressional dining hall to be all organic food and to get rid of all of the high fructose
Monsanto, the communist Chinese. All the elites are obsessed. But listen, you're asking me questions. Keep rolling with all these points.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the elite, if you want to call them that. I call them the pond scum. They're the people who think they're the cream that has risen to the top of the milk, but they're the
fools that think they won't reap what they sow. They're the fools think that they can do evil and get away with it.
Well, and they view themselves, and I know this because, you know, I went to Harvard, and I go to a lot of these meetings and a lot of these government meetings and such, and they really do view themselves as being smarter than everybody else and really being in a position to kind of direct everyone else's lives. So, you know, the pond scum, the algae that chokes out the oxygen for all the rest of us, this really is their view. And they have built escape hatches. They don't send their kids to government schools. They send their kids to elite prep schools.
With armed guards.
With armed guards. And they don't eat the food that they expect the rest of us to eat. One of my favorite stories was when John Kerry was doing a promotional, smile and greet at Wendy's restaurant. And there he was, and he's shaking hands with the person in the Wendy's apron, whatever. And they put the food in front of him, and he wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't put a bite in his mouth. And then afterwards, this got written up because they said, oh, he's an elitist. Because afterwards, he went out and got into his little mobile van, and the local country club brought him a 4-course meal. But the fact that he wouldn't even put it to his lips, you would think at least for a photo opportunity.
He did one. He did one.
Journalism was, that the journalists were watching you, the cameras were on you. You'd at least take a bite. But he didn't even touch it. And who's he married to? Teresa Heinz Kennedy of Heinz. And what does Heinz do? They're part of the whole system that provides the food. And
they're all eugenicists. You can take any of these people and research what they give money to because their charity stuff is public. It's all the eugenics groups. whenever the Secretary of Treasury got like $200 million himself of bailout money and got the waiver from himself to do it, they went and looked and he gave like half the money to eugenics organizations. I mean, they are dedicated to this.
That's wild. That's wild.
Did you hear about Zuckerberg giving money to the Life Extension Group?
Yes.
Yeah, no, this is their deal.
Those are the folks who want to live forever, because that's the animating spirit behind all of this. There's an animating spirit that was put in motion way back in the Garden of Eden. You know, what was the promise that the serpent made to Eve?
I'll make you God.
You will have the power. You will have the knowledge of good and evil. And, of course, God said, well, if you do that, you'll surely die. And he meant, if you bite into the apple and embrace the technology, the knowledge that's going to come from that, your whole species is going to die. He didn't mean Adam and Eve right then. He meant your entire community of the future is going to die. If you
become, because Satan can't create, he has to use God's creations, made in the image of the Creator. The devil isn't creative. He is literally using us to build his master temple.
Indeed. And that's really how I view it. And I've been asked before, the people who are developing these technologies, do they sit around and worship black candles and have pentagrams? And, of course, you've exposed that some of them do. But in my experience, many of them are just day-to-day trying to pay their bills, trying to pay their mortgage.
Yeah, but at the very top, they don't worship the devil. They worship the beautiful white angel. And they believe there's Lucifer, but they see it as the angel of light, and that no, Lucifer's really God, and this is a bad creation. And we've got to do this to save the earth, and they'll work 20 hours a day to bring Lucifer in.
And then you look at the fruit of it, though, because the Bible tells us
I agree, it's horrible.
To judge a tree by its fruit. And so you can say, what is the fruit? And I challenge anyone out there to name a technology that's really gotten a hold that doesn't have a downside. You know, we open our book Spy Chips talking about, we have a quote from C.P. Snow, a New York Times journalist, and he says, technology is a queer thing. It gives you great gifts with one hand, and it stabs you in the back with the other. And it really does feel that way. You look at everything from pesticides. You know, our grandparents thought in the 50s that better living through chemistry, that was going to save us. It was going to eradicate the mosquitoes with DDT. And look at the outcome of that. We don't have birds. We don't have butterflies. We don't have diversity.
And we're not living as long as we used to.
Wait, we have Monsanto. Exactly. So you tie all that in. What did the pesticides lead to? Well, they led to the rise of Monsanto.
And this is all just the launch pad. The reason people are freaking out is the new age, and not the one that people talk about, the new technological hyper dark age, where it's a technocracy dark age against the spirit. It's here, and everything we've seen built up, we're now at the edge of the cliff. Now the real plunge is about to happen. And that's why everybody's like, because deep down the spirit's going, Mayday.
People feel it. They absolutely feel it. And that's why whenever somebody says, well, why are you fighting this? You know, if it's inevitable, if you've got your biblical beliefs, why would you fight against it? It's going to happen. And my response to that is we're not going to stop it. I mean, as much as I hate to say that, I feel like the years that I've battled, the last 13 years, that I've fought against RFID and all these privacy invading technologies, it's like there's been a mudslide coming down the hill, and I stood and I held my ground with my piece of plywood, and I held firm ground, but it just went around me. It's coming anyway. So we can hold our little pieces, and I encourage everybody to do that, because the longer we can hold a space for our family, for our children, for the future, for posterity, the better, and the more people we can inform. But ultimately, this stuff is going to be a mudslide rolling down the hill. And the real answer to that, then, is the same answer back in the Garden of Eden. I view us as being like the crew of the Titanic. We struck an iceberg way back when Eve bit into that apple. We've been taking on water ever since. The ship is going down, and we're not going to stop it. But when you look at the actual Titanic, the reason so many people drowned, do you know that those lifeboats were half empty?
They hadn't trained, they didn't know, and they told the poor, stay down there while the elite went to the escape hatch.
They did.
That's why the patriots need to move to the lifeboats right now.
Absolutely.
Long before everybody else does. The elites have already moved to the country and moved to the middle of nowhere with armed guards. Whoever can, you've got to get ready, folks.
And I think a big part of that, too, is the job that you and I do, which is a job of sounding the alarm, because the crew on the Titanic didn't do a very good job, did they? Because people kept dancing. They didn't want to jump out into the dark cold in a boat.
They were in denial.
Believe it.
It was a great example of learned helplessness or denial about a situation you're in.
But this ship couldn't possibly sink. Look, the lights are on, the music is playing. And I think a lot of people still have that attitude today. Look, I still have my video games.
And I'm like, cancer's up 3,000%. They're like, never mind. And we'll be right back. Incredible. Stay with us. I'm the voice saying I'm not along with the tyranny. I'm the voice. You're the voice saying no to the technocrats and that we see through their agenda. They don't want our guns to help the kids. They want our guns to enslave us. They don't want us eating GMO so we live longer. In all the studies, it kills the rats. We know what it's doing to us. We know what their technocratic plan is. Total world government, where they kill us and they live forever. They're a bunch of delusional crazies that have seized the human brain trust and used it to take over the world. And I want to say something. We're going to talk about this in the next hour. So we'll be with us the whole next hour. And we'll take calls the last 30 minutes because this is a powerful interview with Dr. Katherine Albrecht here in studio with us, syndicated host, best-selling author, researcher. Recently has cancer in remission. I need to pray for her. She's going to get scanned again soon to see if there's any metastasization. So again, pray for her. Pray for everybody. Pray for liberty. Pray for me. I certainly need it as well. All the stuff going on around here, we wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the prayer. We don't just believe in prayer. We rely on it. But I just wanted to point out here before we go back to her that she's got some big news in the next hour about organizing against the chipping of the kids. And they're even going for implanted chips in the dogs and then the kids forcibly. She's been to Washington, been fighting for that. That even if biblically this stuff's going to come in, and what it doesn't make you believe in the Bible is everything it said's coming true thousands of years ago. It's the journey of warning people so that at the critical time they'll recognize it once it's even in. It's just the soul that matters. And then defeating it after that. The beast comes in. But then it only reigns for a short time. It's going to be hellish. But how many people does the Bible say is going to end up? Is it 2/3, a third? How many people in Revelations get killed? It's a large amount. I mean, only nanotech could make the ocean completely die. I mean, folks, again, you better hope the Bible's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean what the fake preachers are preaching. Briefly here, paying some bills. We have the very best products, ProPure at the lowest price at InfoWarsShop.com or InfoWarsStore.com. You can get 11 memberships, your one membership and 10 more at PrisonPlanet.tv and see the video of the Daily Show, the radio show, the nightly news show, 7 o'clock Central, all my films. I mean, 11 memberships for $5.95 a month, or get the yearly membership and get 5+ months free off the regular price. The T-shirts, all of it. Support us, buy the products, InfoWarsStore.com. Or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. And also spread the word about the broadcast in your local AM and FM stations, XM 166. Spread the word about everything we're doing. That's how, tell talk show hosts, big national ones, you want to hear me on their show. You want to hear Katherine Albrecht on their show. Because that's how we're going to reach people. Now, we only got a few minutes left here, Katherine. Then we're going to come back with all the big news and specifics of the technocratic takeover and why even the elites are talking about a robot takeover, which they command, of course, taking human will out of it, they believe, and why it's so important to keep the guns for defense against that, because there's going to be major resistance to this planetary-wide. And the Bible says, if we get biblical, that there'll also be remnant areas and protected areas. And right. I believe Texas is going to be one of those areas. I mean, Pastor David J. Smith said that praying to God like 30 years ago, he was told, move to Texas, this is all going to happen. And it was, I mean, the point is that you've got to know that there's not all doom. We need to stand against this regardless. Maybe get a reprieve like Nineveh got for 100 years. We don't know. But Katherine, we only got about a minute and a half left in this hour. Plug your speaking at Brave New Books tonight and some of the other stuff that's happening.
Absolutely. Harlan Dietrich has invited me out at Brave New Books at 7 p.m. I'm going to be talking about giving people an update on the student shipping that's going on in San Antonio. We have now stepped into the fray. I'm rolling up my sleeves and taking that issue on. So I encourage people to come out and join us at 7 p.m. Startpage is helping to sponsor that event, help to get me out here. Startpage.com. Startpage.com, the world's most private search engine. Good stuff.
And it's little stuff like using Startpage, which I'm starting to do more and more. People don't even know what it is. So I say it's big. It's one of the biggest. But I say, hey, Google, the new, the clean Google is startpage.com.
Well, instead of saying Google it, we're trying to say Startpage it. Just erase that from people's vocabulary. That's the goal. Because there are things that we can do. We're not hopeless. We're not helpless. There are things that we can do, and some of them are really easy.
And I met the developers and creators of it. Amazing people.
They were right here in the studio.
Back in 60 seconds. Well, she's here in studio with us, and we're talking about the biggest issue out there. What is the technocratic architecture of the technocracy that the globalists admit they're building? And every book they've written, every publication, every transcript, it's just nightmare. How there will be world government by 2020. There will not even be families, men or women anymore. You will merge or you will not be part of the collective. We might let you live in ghettos. And then you see Plandopolis videos that they show kids in Britain where it shows that future. I mean, it is a prison planet. That's why I call it PrisonPlanet.com. Doc, we're going to go to break. This is a short kind of no man's land segment, but what are you going to be covering throughout the rest of the hour before we take calls?
Well, I want to talk about the fight that we've mounted in San Antonio against the radio tracking beacons around children's necks. That's got to be one of the worst things that I've seen.
So we'll cover that next, and also what's coming up in D.C.
Talking about what's going on in D.C., the coalition that's been put together to fight back against that, and I've also got some news from Start Page, and we've got good stuff going on. And
I want to get also into just some of the other technologies coming in.
There are a lot of them, and I think what I'm seeing now is the convergence of not just the technology, but the mindset. Because I'm sure you have listeners right now listening to this program who, if I told them, hey, listen, your cell phone is tracking you, they would say, yeah, well, what can we do? It is what it is. So even people who love liberty, even people who know what's coming, even people who want to fight it, are starting to feel that there's really nothing we can do about it. That it's
they think like there's a power into just saying, so what?
Yeah, exactly. That's perfectly put. There's almost a sense of empowerment of, I'm not going to let it scare me, I'm just going to accept it. And I think that
I'm not going to let it scare me that the GMO kills mammals that eat it. Here, 2-year-old, my son, have the food.
Yeah, it's playing right into the hands.
Your 10-year-old has cancer. Well, that's it. And then all the crying and all the, I'll go on a jog to get the cure. No, they killed your son. They killed your daughter. And then now you're going to go jog to collect money for them. Yeah, so it does play directly into that. And you were asking about what is it that's causing all the breast cancer. I think it's also the same thing that's causing all the gender confusion. Because when you have all these estrogenics in the food, in the pesticides, in the genetically modified stuff, then you wind up with gender confusion. You wind up with it like this guy in Japan who removed his own genitalia and served it at a banquet. Because he didn't want to identify with being male or female. He just wanted to chop it Well,
off.
Look at Japan has like 1.2 kids for every adult, for every two men and women. And now the new chic thing is adult diapers because it's so trendy to poop your pants. I'm sorry to say that in front of a lady, but
Japan is a very odd place.
Did you see that record? Adult diapers now outstrip child.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then I saw it and thought, oh, that's an old population. And no, it says in the Bloomberg article that it's like really trendy.
Yeah, and Japan has a lot of perversity behind the scenes. I actually studied Japanese for 2 years in school.
I didn't.
And I spent some time over in Japan, in Tokyo, and I had a horrific experience when I was in Japan. I was in a bathroom stall at a train station, and someone, my boyfriend was outside, and saw a drunken guy wander into the bathroom. This guy jumped up over the stall with a camera and took a photo of me, and then ran out. And that... You can buy publications available on the street corners of magazines full of that kind of sick thing. And you think now, this was years ago, you think now, what could they do with today's technology in Japan? What could they do with today's technology anywhere? They could have those cameras hidden in anything.
Well, the court ruled that public schools can watch your kids undress with laptops at home.
Well, and
I mean, that's totally illegal.
And Big Brother Watch just finished telling us that over in England now they're finding that the schools are installing video cameras in the changing rooms and in the bathroom stalls. And they tell
the kids also thumbprint like 007 in biometrics. Don't tell mommy and daddy you're now 007. Yes. It's all about breaking that the family. Your family's not your family. The state is.
And that's what Hitler did, of course. He said, I don't care about you guys. I want your kids. It's your kids I want. It's their kids I want.
I remember 12 years ago when I caught bribes, or 13 years ago at the Capitol, the head of the group said, we don't care. We'll get your guns. We've got your kids. To the newspaper, we've got your kids. I mean, these are evil degenerates. We've got your kids. We'll be right back. Escape from the technocracy. Escape from the New World Order. For me, when I realized there's a scientific group of authoritarians wanting to take over the planet, I learned this 20 years ago, I was like, I want to fight these people. And look what I've been able to do, and I'm just an average person. But it's a normal response for a man or a woman learning that a horrible world's being created to want to change that. And I think it's the difference between being a spectator and being someone active in the world. And Catherine, we were talking during the break about people that think it's winning to just give in. And that is not the case. Now, there's a bunch of stuff we're going to get into. The coalition you're forming to fight the RFIDing of the kids in school with the tracker systems. We're going to take phone calls. We're going to get into a host of other really important issues. But you said you wanted to talk about Piers Morgan.
I did, actually. And, you know, a lot of people have said, well, what in the world happened when Alex Jones went on Piers Morgan? And I said, probably one of the most powerful things that's ever occurred. And let me tell you why. Because, Alex, the people that were fighting, they don't respond to us showing a belly and rolling over and saying, oh, yes, I'm defenseless. They respond to being afraid. So, you know, it's the same idea. When the people fear their government, we have, when people fear their government, you have tyranny. When the government fears the people, you have liberty. When I saw you on Piers Morgan, you know what I thought of? I thought of Afghanistan. And let me tell you why. When the U.S., I protested this war. When the U.S. decided to go into Afghanistan, I'm no military strategist. I knew that was going to be idiotic. Why? Because everybody who has ever tangled with Afghanistan has absolutely gotten their butt kicked. Everybody. So the Soviets went in with all of their Cold War technology, couldn't touch Afghanistan. Everybody who's gone in there has gotten absolutely reamed, and we're getting reamed over there too. Those people are tough. They're bad, as in badass.
Well, they just won't give up.
Yes, and so when you know that if you tangle with them, you're going to get in trouble, and it's not going to come out well for you. And that was exactly the sense that I had with you on Piers Morgan, was that the people who want to take away our guns, who want to take away my gun, I own guns, those people taking a look at you are going to say, you know what? I don't know if it's going to be safe to try to take those guns away. So I want to thank you. And you know, I'm no big fan of the people of Afghanistan. I mean, I actually do admire their moxie.
Sure.
I admire their ability to fight back. I admire their tenacity. But I have to say that there are some certain people you don't want to tangle with.
Well, you're nice to say that. I mean, the Lord works in mysterious ways. It's been said. They begged me to go up there. I said, okay, I'll do it in studio. That way they couldn't cut me off and stuff. And I just so happened to get sick that day going and was hacking and coughing and had a stomach ache. And, you know, I don't want to get into it on air, but, you know, threw up a little bit. And that's why I blew up at the TSA. Because when I get sick and I'm made to get up out of a bed, I'm in a bad mood. And then I blew up at him because he was sniveling. I know he wants my guns on record, acting like he doesn't. Oh, we're just being reasonable. I'm like, look, you want my guns, it's going to cause a civil war. Because it is going to cause a civil war. And I've had sheriffs and police chiefs and internal West Point documents that are now out say there'll be a civil war. There will be. So don't act like there's not going to be a civil war. And listen, Piers, when the civil war starts, you're an enemy redcoat. So I was there just saying, look, stop playing games here. I know. And I was intending to say it nicer, but because I was sick, and I guess it was a scene, me and they're sweating and all the rest of it, I think it did get the message. And notice they said, oh, it was discrediting for us. No, they want us in a coma. And I'm not just putting perfume on a pig. This resonated, and that's why they said they won't have me back on, because I ran back into him in Houston and his producers. I went down there to cover it when he was down there a few weeks ago. They said, oh, we gave you too much attention. We're not doing it. No, that event got a lot of attention and had people go at first because they're in a coma. They're in a trance. Oh, my gosh, that's so mean-sounding. That's so angry. That guy. But then I said, America, why are you upset by somebody saying, don't take my rights, when Paul Revere didn't just yell. He said, get your guns and kill people. And oh, he's a founding father. I'm just saying, hey, watch it, buddy. Don't you try to take our Second Amendment. How do we get so gelded, so conditioned that was alien? And so at first it was uncomfortable to get woken up from a sleep. But then people went, like a day later, including family, wait, this makes perfect sense. So it was almost a trance-breaking thing. And a lot of media analysts I talked to, and also some, people like Billy Corrigan of Smashing Pumpkins sent me a text right after it, and he said, you just broke the trance. And he's a really smart guy, but I heard that from other media analysts, you name it. They said, no, it was a famous event in American TV history, because it was almost like Howard Beale getting off script. But anyways, I'm ranting.
I agree entirely. And, you know, it kind of gets back to what I was saying about after cancer. I just say what I know. You know, I'm sure a lot of people watched that, and they didn't like you very much. And you know what? They shouldn't. The people who want to take away our guns shouldn't like us. They should be afraid of us. They should be uncomfortable in our presence. They should bow and kneel before us because they're our servants. And I actually, as a woman, I'm in no position to get out there and yell in their faces. That's not my role. That's not who I am or how I am. But I got to tell you, I am very glad that you are standing between me and them.
Well, you're very sweet, but as a woman, you're out there fighting really hard. My only issue is it is men's main job to stand up to usurpers, and men aren't doing that. It is a usurpation. Our ancestors started a war with the greatest empire the world had ever seen that lasted 6 years and killed hundreds of thousands over this.
Amen. And it is. And it is the role of real men. And that's one of the reasons why you can't even buy a sandwich down the street without there being soybean oil in the mayonnaise. Because what does soy do? We have study after study after study showing that it emasculates men. It reduces testosterone levels. One of the reasons why in the prisons they feed soy to the prison inmates is because it makes them docile. It turns them into domesticated.
I heard the guest you had about the medical problems it's causing.
Immense. Incredible. That was Sally Fallon from Nurturing Traditions. She's actually got a lawsuit against, I believe, the Ohio prison system because they're feeding those prison inmates up to 70 grams of protein, soy protein a day. And it's destroying their health. It's giving them leaky gut syndrome, holes in their stomach. They've got chronic health problems, joint issues, you name it. And it's not only that, but the real issue, the real reason they're feeding everybody soy is because they want to emasculate the men.
Well, the social engineers call us animals, and we're like wild pigs to them that they're feeding poison to. And then we just run up and do it, and we run off, and you know, we know the system's bad, but we still come up and eat their food. And, you know, while we're looking around like a pig. I mean, think about that. We got scientists writing white papers about how we're animals and how they're poisoning us.
Yeah.
I mean, I have John P. Holdren's book right there. I mean, that's war. He should be in prison.
You know, there's a guy named Dwayne Andreas who was featured in the movie The Informant a couple years back. And Dwayne Andreas is the head of Archer Daniels Midland. You know, you always hear they fund NPR and you hear their names all the time. Dwayne Andreas is known as the soybean king because he took soy, which was not a human food. In fact, people didn't even feed it to their animals because it was toxic. It was silage. They used it just for the hay. And he turned soy into a human food by flying all over the world. He's known, if you look him up on Wikipedia, Dwayne Andreas is known as the #1 political donor in all of history of the 20th century. He has like a life-size bronze statue of Ronald Reagan to get Ronald Reagan on board. He traveled and visited with Castro and visited with the Kremlin and went behind the Iron Curtain all through the 60s, 70s, and 80s and got all of those countries to introduce soybean oil as the key #1 oil being consumed.
And that was the dream of Henry Ford, who was a eugenicist.
Well, prior to that, and you can look this up, they couldn't give it away. They could not give it away. Soybean oil is used for making paint. It was not food. It's never been food. But what they discovered is that if they could take this soybean oil, which can be cheaply produced, and get it out in mass to the people, obviously it starts having a huge impact on fertility. I blogged about this. They've done studies where boys exposed to soy, the little tubules that do all the stuff, testosterone and all of that, they don't form properly. So that's why we're seeing these hamsters. If you feed them soy, their testicles shrivel up after 3 generations, and they are infertile. They literally can't procreate.
And they have hair on their tongues.
And they do.
And giant tumors.
Absolutely.
But that's loving.
Well, you know, and the women, they have difficulty bringing their babies to full term. So this is the baby hamsters. I'm sure it's happening to women as well. And so what are we seeing? This huge explosion of gender confusion.
And now they're saying you shouldn't be able to eat beef or poultry. Go to soy. It's humane.
Yes.
And the school lunch programs, you know, Michelle Obama, eat your soy.
Yeah, and it's genetically modified in the first place. But even if you eat organic soy, it's not good for you. It's one of the most highly estrogenic things you can eat. Sally Fallon has some amazing research up on her website, points to studies that show that if you feed a baby an infant soy formula, that baby is receiving as much hormone as if you were giving that baby a birth control pill. That's immense amounts.
Totally fries them. I look at photos, people in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they look totally different. I was reading where people even eat less calories today than they used to 50 years ago, but it's about cut calories now instead of like, what are the calories?
Exactly.
And it's never, why is everybody getting breast cancer? It's find the cure. Because they're doing it to us. I mean, they allow McDonald's to feed us plastic in the Chicken McNuggets, silicone.
And now aspartame in the milk, you know, it's
and not tell us.
And what's even more interesting is, why is there this pathological desire? I know here in Austin they just had a hearing this morning on the organic milk issue, the raw milk issue. Why are they so pathologically determined to ensure that we don't have alternatives?
Because it's a superfood.
To make sure that we cannot go out onto our own property. It's going to come to the point, I guarantee you, Alex, where you're going to need a permit to put a seed in the ground.
Oh, no, they're already trying it all over the country.
Where you're not going to be able to grow your own food, your own garden. You're not going to be...
Well, Monsanto wants that. They just sued 400 more farmers where their stuff infects you. You have a record of the seeds you bought, not from them. They can go find where... You know, because plants aren't one daddy, one mommy. If it's 1% a Monsanto plant from pollen that blew in, the court rules that they run. And now they're saying, how about everyone just has to get inspected or licensed to grow anything?
Yeah.
I mean, what will we not put up with?
Invasive species. There are now regulations about transporting seeds across state lines because you might transport in some invasive species. They now have satellite programs that, based on the color of the crops, can identify whether it's...
Oh, yeah, no. They're already using the drones and the former NSA spy satellites to watch us. And exactly, it's hell on earth.
You know, I interviewed Noah Hutchins from Southwest Radio Ministries. He's like 90, 95.
I've been on his show, yeah,
he's
great.
Amazing. He's still doing a show all these years. Interview him and ask him about his experience during the Great Depression. He was 16 years old, flying an airplane, surveilling over farmers' lands to make sure they weren't planting crops.
I want Noah Hutchins on.
Destroy it.
Southwest Radio Ministries I've been on there a couple times. Like the one time, the times I came on, I was so tired, I just kind of ranted the whole time. You know, I rant when I'm tired. It's like a crutch. But yeah, Southwest Radio Ministries. I want Noah Hutchins. That is a living legend right there. I want him on the show. Catherine, stay there. We're going to come back with more news and phone calls. I want you to tell the Noah Hutchins story, one of the people to ever surveil with aircraft in the U.S., and now he exposes it. 90 years old, but you also mentioned this, and here's the Wall Street Journal for radio listeners, how the insurer knows you just stocked up on ice cream and beer. And we told you this. Under the socialist health care written by the insurance companies, fascist profit, but socialist control over you, they will know everything you eat, everything you do off the store loyalty cards, or even off the credit card with a data mining tied to your name. And Catherine, I talked about this, you talked about this more than a decade ago, and now they're just flaunting that what you buy is given to your insurance company. No judge, no jury, no contract you sign. That's why they get so mad when you pay with cash. But we'll get to that. First, get into the Noah Hutchinson story, and then I'll give the number out.
Yeah, so Noah Hutchins, during the Great Depression, he was, I think he was 15 or 16, and everybody needed a job, so he lied about his age. He tells this story, which I think is interesting, because now you never get away with this, but lied about his age and got a job flying aircraft and going out to all of the farmers' lands to ensure that they weren't planting crops. So this was an era, and it still blows my mind to this day, that they were burning hundreds of thousands of bushels of corn and wheat and things that farmers had grown in an effort to try to create a shortage to drive the price up. And one of the things that they would do is they would say, if you agree to let your land lie fallow, not plant anything, we'll pay you X amount per acre to plant nothing. And so some of the farmers said, well, forget that. It's my land. I want to grow crops, at least for my own family. And Noah's job back then, which he now regrets, he can tell you the story, but this is back in, the 1930s, is he would drive out in a pickup truck to these properties. And the farmers would meet him with a shotgun at the gate, said, you can't come on the property. And say, well, I'm with the government. I've got to inspect to see if you're growing food. And they would say, no, you can't come on the property. So then they put him in an airplane. And he would fly, literally, the very first aerial surveillance used by the government in this country was used to see if people were growing food on their own property. You can tell the story. It's amazing. And
that's what they're doing now. This whole police state control grid, the Pentagon, Northcom, is, you know, we have an old family ranch. We don't even really hunt on it much. But, you know, every once in a while, at the first day of deer season, if you happen to be there, you know, the game warden will pull in or whatever. And now it's just like, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 people will show up and just start demanding, get in that truck, get in that. You know, we don't need warrants. We're God. We're under a federal task force. But meanwhile, the borders are wide open, the government shipping in the drugs. But it's all about government, like bugging their eyes out at you like, it's our country now, boy.
And the idea now is how many places can you put the eyeballs? So we've already got the satellite imagery watching you. Now we've got the drones that can fly over. We've got the little dragonflies with a camera in their nose that can fly around your property. And eventually they want to do these antenna trees and put surveillance devices on literally everything in your property.
To read the smart dust.
Yeah, and
then bathe everything in RF.
Yes, and there is, we actually saw when we were researching spy chips, Liz and I came across a plan to put an RFID tag in every single tree on Earth. They actually calculated the number of saplings that come up out of seeds every year across the entire planet and calculated how feasible it would be to track every single...
And then have us pay for it.
Well, of course.
I mean, that's the great part, is you work to put all the extra tech in the iPhone or the robot attached to the side of your house called a smart meter that's breaking into everything, tracking you, and then admitting it's doing it.
Well, and let's talk about payment here, because I want to tie this back to San Antonio, where I was just down yesterday. We met for a couple of hours with the vendor that's producing these radio tracking beacons around kids' necks, and he was boasting, well, we used this down in the Spring Independent School District down in, Houston, and we saved them $1 million.
That's like saying, well, there was slavery before. I mean, there's lots of slaves in Angola. Well, we're going back to slavery.
Well, this idea that they've saved $1 million in missed attendance over the last 4 years, and then he turns around and in almost the same breath he says, and the city of San Antonio, this district is investing $13 million in surveillance cameras. And I said, hang on a second, so you're tracking kids so you can save $1 million in lost attendance money, and then you're turning around and spending $13 million on surveillance cameras? So where is the money coming from? And what is the money being used for? Do we really need $13 million worth of surveillance cameras in one tiny district in San Antonio? So all that justification, this immense amount of money that gets spent.
By the way, those cameras are Department of Defense paid for, our money again, that scans with a smart computer how much calories you eat off the apple, and it's watching what the kids eat. I mean, this is beyond 1984.
Yeah, and what the vendor was telling us, a company called Wade Garcia that put this program together down there, they were actually telling us that they've gotten inquiries from schools that want to have GPS trackers on the kids and want to be able to track them when they go home at night. I actually want to track them off the campus. He was saying, one of these administrators says, I can't sleep at night thinking that when the kids get off the bus, they've got to walk home. We need to have GPS. You've got to make it more affordable.
Well, and they need to then say the kid was out too long so CPS can come take your kid.
Or yeah, there's a million things you can do once you track them home.
Here's the toll-free number, folks, 800-259-9231 for questions for Dr. Katherine Albrecht and myself, Alex Jones, 800-259-9231, specifically on the Technotronic takeover. Stephen Janakis, the retired top general, is working with Mayor Bloomberg on how the military can be used to confiscate our guns. You know, I thought, hey, I haven't hit refresh on Infowars.com in about 45 minutes talking to Dr. Katherine Albrecht here in studio with us in Austin, Texas. I better hit refresh. And during the break, I hit refresh, and during the break, I watched some of the video we're downloading right now. We'll have it after we take some calls. This is kind of a, emergency. They've got counties all over going, we'll just take guns during any storm or problem, just like Katrina. And now retired general tells Biden military can help with gun control agenda. Feinstein again promises to press the case for disarming the American people. And we have the memo from the Justice Department saying ban all the guns and turn them in. And the communist Chinese, I forgot to mention this yesterday when Michael Savage was on, because his premise is that's what uses the muscle. They said the People's Daily twice, wage a war against your gun owners. That's a quote. We're ready to help. And by the way, we own your debt. So step and fetch. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, punch this up for folks. Retired general tells Biden military can help with gun control agenda. Yep, the big red one can come to your town and kill your mommy and your daddy. Because the extremists aren't Al-Qaeda now. It's the gun-owning conservative libertarian. Look at Feinstein. I made over $100 million when I went to the Senate off $175,000 a year. Yeah, if you believe that, I got a bridge I'll sell you. So amazing that story's been out. I haven't even covered that. That is just incredible. We'll get back to more of that here in just a moment. New York's 7-round law bans most firearms. Eyewitness, yes, to the Nazis did confiscate guns. The media is denying that says Hitler was pro-gun, even though it's on record he wasn't. It's just incredible lies. Just like, did you see where Robert Gibbs, Catherine, was told, now the drone program is public and admitted, all over the world killing people, but you're to say it doesn't exist. And he said, yeah, but that didn't make sense. But it was the Karl Rovian idea of just say there is no RFID. There is no cancer increase. There is no New World Order. Well, wait, you just announced it. And I had the Nightline host, the ABC Nightly News host, go, that's a different world government. I mean, it's like they've gotten to the point where it's a learned, what do you call that psychologically?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. But if you give people who don't want to know, if you give them somebody to point to and say, see, they said it's not true, then you let people kind of hide. And I think that's really what it's about. They know, if you're paying attention, you know they're absolutely lying. But then you go and you talk to your mother-in-law, or you talk to your brother-in-law, and they say, you're full of it. Look, this expert just finished saying it's not.
Yeah, they don't respect you. They respect the expert they don't know.
Yeah, which is I think the purpose of that outright propaganda that you can see through like a transparent, sheet of saran wrap. The reason for it is that there are people who will cling to it, no matter how ridiculous it is.
Because they're in denial, because they're scared.
Yeah, and they want. So
it's like, the world is round. They're like, nope. Robert Gibbs said in this document it is flat, and that there's Candy Rock Mountains at the end of it.
That's right. That's right. So that's why it works. So if you ever wonder, why would they say something so obviously false? Like, do they think we're stupid? And the reality is, it's not that they think we're stupid. It's that they know that there are people who will cling to that and use it to tell you to shut up.
Well, and it's also an acclimator where you just get used to them just pushing bizarre baloney.
Yeah. It is too, right? And you get to the point where we're becoming overwhelmed, I think, with so many different voices.
When I first interviewed you, and then we're going to go to calls in 2001, when you were first, you were even just you were in Harvard at the time or whatever. You were fighting the loyalty cards, and you got into RFID,
right.
And you said they're using it to track and do all this. They'll use it for your health insurance under socialist health care. And now let me punch it up for viewers out there. Voila. How the insurer knows you just stocked up on ice cream and beer, the exact examples I used years ago was ice cream and beer, to now increase your insurance because they say that's bad for you, even though most studies show a couple beers actually relaxes you. I mean, you can argue it gets extreme and gets abused, sure. Or who's to say you can't go run 5 miles and have some ice cream? This is the nanny state, and now Bloomberg says what you'll eat. Michelle Obama says what you'll eat. I mean, these people are incredible. I
got to say, back in 1999 when I founded Caspian and we put up the nocards.org website, which is ancient now and hasn't been updated, but it's historically still there, nocards.org. Back when I put that website together, the concern was that we are registering our purchases. So whenever you scan a supermarket card, you are registering your food. And the reason that we all resist the registration of guns is because we understand first they register, then they regulate, then they restrict, then they confiscate. And the same is true for food. First they register, which is what these supermarket cards are. Then they will begin to restrict and regulate, and then they will begin to confiscate. So
look at this. It even says that the employers get into the files and get to know what you're eating now.
Yeah.
Because, the fun is everyone gets to be a Stasi spy.
Yeah.
I mean, holy crap. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the idea here is that you will be told when you get to the supermarket, and there are people talking about this, that when you put that pound of butter in there and you scan your frequent shopper card, which will at some point, I believe, become mandatory, they'll say, no, I'm sorry, you've already had your monthly quota of butter. You can't have that butter. You're going to have to put that back and get...
And by the way, the top environmental groups say, with all this now, we will ration what you eat.
Absolutely.
That's in the Plandopolis videos for kids, where you get meat on your birthday.
Absolutely.
I mean, the smart grid is the death grid, is the slave grid. And does anyone listening out there really want to be part of this?
Yeah, so this whole idea of sharing this information with health insurers, I first revealed this in 2004, where I found out that Stop & Shop, our biggest chain in New England, was actually sharing shopper card information with health insurance companies.
They're selling it.
In that case, they said, well, because I asked them, I was in a meeting, and I asked the VP of technology, why are you doing this? Why are you collecting all this information? Why are you converting it into nutritional health records? They now have programs where everything they scan, they instantly add all the calories, all the, every ingredient. It all gets tallied up for your individual profile. And I said, why are you doing that? He said, well, we hope to recoup some of the money we've spent by sharing that information with HMOs. And they can use it to raise your rates, cancel your policy. And once we get into Obamacare, this is where this gets really frightening. Once we hit Obamacare, and I'm paying for your health insurance, and that guy over there's health insurance, and he's paying for mine, then it's going to be an argument that...
they already do it.
Because that guy's eating the wrong food.
No. That's the collectivist model. Now it doesn't matter that you pay for your own plan. Now, everyone gets to decide because we're all together. It's the equivalent of having everyone in the world living in your house.
Yeah. And
no privacy, no nothing. Every control freak over you. A bunch of ninnies bossing each other. But then never any concern in what we're eating with the HMOs. They're not worried about aspartame, GMO. It's all about the calories.
The calories. And, there are people in that world who are sincere and really do want to see people be healthy.
Useful idiots.
Yeah, but the underlying issue is going to be an issue of we have unthinkingly allowed the creation of a food registration network. It's global. In Jamaica, they have frequent shopper cards. In Czechoslovakia, they have them. In South Korea, they have them. Everywhere you go in the globe now, there is software installed at the cash register.
And they push you to get them everywhere. They push them everywhere. Explain just in a nutshell before we go to calls, the scam in them, why they started them. Yeah, well, they started them for two reasons. One was to collect your data so they'd know everything you bought so that they could follow your household and make sure that you don't get coupons for the things you buy. So, you know, I remember back when when I was a little girl, my mom would clip coupons for the stuff we bought. We had a cat, so she'd clip 9 Lives coupons. Well, what the industry now says is we want to make sure that you never again get a coupon for anything you buy because you're going to buy it anyway. Why would we give you a discount? So they know you, and then even the mailing list, or they have actuaries on everybody. And this is admitted. It's all a way to screw you. Yeah, so, and especially in that marketing sense. So now you get a coupon for Friskies. And then they sit back and see if you actually cash it in, if you actually used it. And then they can say, well, look, we moved 15% of people over to this other brand. So it's all a plan. Even the RFID fridge. The Procter & Gamble had in an internal document that we found in spy chips. Procter & Gamble said, we want to hook up your fridge, your smart refrigerator, to your television cable network. So when you remove the last can of Coke, your TV runs an ad for Pepsi. And that was like 10 years ago. Yes. And then but now that's what they admit they're doing. It's all actually occurring. It is a master technocratic prison planet takeover. Everything that we predicted in spy chips, and I would encourage people, it's like G. Edward Griffin's book on the Federal Reserve. Thank you. Everything that we wrote about in there in 2006, it's all happening today. It's all coming. And again, to everybody in the system, so many, there's different types. There's not just those in denial or those that accept it. Then there's bureaucrat types that go, yeah, I know it's happening. You don't like it, do you? They're like a little kid imagining they're Batman. They're imagining they're a winner, and they're part of it when the system's attacking them. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a system that wants you dead, idiots. You're not part of the winning team. You either join humanity and wake up and get your butt right with God, or you join the devil. Because listen, if even you don't believe in the devil, this might as well be the devil. Okay, even if the devil isn't physically or spiritually real, the New World Order is the worst of the worst. It is the devil. You understand? It's kind of like Ray Kurzweil says, I don't believe in God yet. He believes he's going to become God and merge with the computer as the head of Google's head of technology. And you can laugh. This guy's running your life and mine too. Okay? Listen, even if you don't believe in the devil believes in you, and I'll take his thing and turn it back. Ray Kurzweil doesn't believe in God. He believes in the devil and believes he will become the devil. They believe they're building God, but they're really building the devil. Even if you're an atheist, can you get this in your head? Could humans build something that acted like the devil and took over and did horrible things? A global control grid that wants to kill you. That's the devil. Kill, steal, and destroy. So they're building the devil. They're building the devil. The devil's real, folks. They're building the devil. I mean, isn't that a revelation? I think it is. And you know who got it? Tolkien got it. You know, you think about the Lord of the Rings. The Ring of Power. Right. They were building it so that Sauron could occupy it. You know, many people throughout history have understood this, that humanity will build something. And once that something is built, then the evil consciousness will then embody itself into it and then enslave humanity. Well, that's how it's always worked. Absolutely. It is. It tells Sauron, build me an army. Yeah. You know, worthy of Mordor. Yeah. So the power of Isengard is at your command. You do that well. So, yes, it is definitely coming. And, you know, to get back to the Titanic analogy, we've got to tell people to get in the lifeboat. And as far as I'm concerned, that lifeboat, the only thing that's going to save you is that saving blood of Jesus Christ. That's it. Because everything else, I mean, this thing wants our blood. It wants to eat us. The Bible tells us it comes to destroy and devour, eat, consume. That's the reason why on battlefields, that's what the high priest, it says the magicians of Babylon, you pull the quotes up, trafficked in the souls of men. Yeah. That's what they want, is your soul. They want to know what you're into, and they want to manipulate what you're into. No. I mean, they want your soul. Well, that gets me to Google, knowing what you're into and manipulating it, yeah. So, you know, one of the things, I don't know if you're familiar with the filter bubble. Yes. But this idea that Google now, it decides what you want now, but not really that. Then it can distort that. Yes. And it creates this notion, you ever have the feeling, and I'm sure your listeners have this feeling, that how could everybody not know this, that, and the other?
You know, you look something up and your first 10 search results tell you exactly this, that your health
They are
insurer knows this.
compartmentalizing, just like Romans compartmentalized Rome into 9 different ethnic groups to control them. We're being compartmentalized, segregated.
We are. And what it does is those of us who are in the know of a certain kind of information, we find that every time we do a search on Google, we get more of that same information. And that causes us to become more and more incensed, more and more angry, and more, in a way, isolated. Because if you go out and you look at what your brother-in-law gets when he searches for the exact same thing on Google, he'll get a whole set of links that have nothing to do with it.
It's giving him the reality he wants.
Yes, so if we look up Monsanto, well, I don't use Google, so it won't happen to me, but if somebody who uses Google regularly and listens to your show and looks up this kind of stuff, looks up Monsanto, they'll get Monsanto lawsuit and GMO damage and dead hamsters and all of that. But if somebody else looks up Monsanto, they'll get Monsanto stock values, Monsanto contributing to the betterment of Africa, Monsanto working with Bill Gates to do good things. So it's a different reality that we're seeing. And so when we wonder, why are they not waking up? It's because when we tell them things and they try to look them up, they get different answers.
That's right, because it already profiled what was keeping them in the matrix.
Yes.
And so they want us to think we're out there winning, putting us in our own matrix, but then it's worse than that. And David and I actually got shots of this. We have a bunch of YouTube channels, all total. It's like 600 million views, our channels and fan channels, but one of them got up to 300 million. And I saw a couple months ago, it had hit right at 300 million. And then I saw it at like 390. I thought, I'm busy, whatever. Then at 380 million, and then 370 million. And they're just taking our views away. And I went and looked it up, and I already knew the reason. They're gaming at taking Sony's views away and stuff, so they don't have to pay them. But they're doing it across the board with the algorithm, even though we're not monetized. They don't get my little joke, is that we don't take their ads. But it doesn't matter. We don't have gamed views. But they just took 30 million views, and now it's more every day. And then people that were already in our network, they all still get the subscription, but I talk to new people that subscribe or people who just woke up, they don't get the subscription. I mean, think of how this is war gamed.
It is.
I said we go to calls, but...
And, well, one last thing I do want to say is I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be able to rely on the internet in its present form.
Oh, they're already, they've said they're killing the old...
Age. And when you're talking about getting the word out, I did want to mention up in New Hampshire where I live, way up in the middle of nowhere, I was driving on a very lonely road, and then I headed onto a freeway, and I'm heading up in northern New Hampshire, and there goes 2 cars with InfoWars bumper stickers. And then 2 days later, I was in Amherst, New Hampshire, very conservative, very low-key community, and on the stop sign, someone had put an InfoWars sticker right across the stop sign. So you're getting the word out in ways that don't rely on Google reporting back or on YouTube reporting back, but on actual people doing tangible, actual things, and we need more of that.
Well, here's how I liken Google, since you use the Lord of the Rings. That's why I talked about Sauron and Gandalf. They, and if you really read it, he was a genius, Tolkien, because what they are is that they're really angels in men's form. But Sauron's an evil, he's an angel that's decided to join Lucifer, or Morgoth, who is then Sauron. But if you actually read the lore of it, it's really interesting, because the guy was a linguist and studied ancient religions and stuff. So that's what he was kind of inculcating, a Christian mythos into this larger thing. He was a Christian. But the issue is he goes in and he says, where'd you get this crystal ball? That's dangerous. Those see both ways. And Gandalf touches it and sees Sauron looking at him, even though it had a cloth over it.
It's like your TV now, right?
It's your TV. It's seeing both ways. So Google, but see, you're just seeing what you're looking for. Google's tying it into everything.
Yeah.
And so you are literally, that is a spider eye and a compound eye.
Beautiful way of putting it.
Of Lucifer. You are literally engaging Lucifer.
That is a brilliant way of putting it.
No, it is. You're giving Lucifer where you're going, what you're doing, everything you stand for. You are in a chamber with Lucifer looking right at you.
Yeah, so I guess you could think of Startpage then.
It's a real crystal ball. Did you know before I looked it up, I knew they called it a crystal ball. I had this epiphany about 7 years ago, and I looked it up and found white papers with Google scientists, MIT, saying it will be a crystal ball where they can see the future in mass movements. And it turned out they have built crystal balls. That's what this is an interface to a crystal ball, but I'm only looking in from one position. It is networked into everything. Like you said, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. We're going to do overdrive. How's that sound?
Right.
Never let you get any rest. Then you got to do the nightly news. We're going to wear Katherine out. Your call's coming up. Stay with us.
Are you?
We're going right to your calls here. White House blames Big Sis for alien release. That's up at Drudge, drudgereport.com. And they already release illegal aliens all the time. It just shows how the globalists want open borders to bring people in politically to drive down wages and to then see themselves allied with the government when the government just wants to bring the country down to consolidate power. Dr. Katherine Albrecht's our guest. People have been patient holding. I'm going to go to Keith, and then we're going to go to Mike, Steve, Julius, and Mark. It's probably all the time we have. Real quick comment and question. Keith in Indiana, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I thank you. I used to live in Lancaster, PA, about 4 years ago, and they had the largest number of of cameras in the streets per population. And when people tried to protest against this, the two things we found out were that there were no Christians who attended the meetings, and the lawyers told us that you can't have any right of public expectancy of privacy in public.
Catherine's audio headpiece isn't working for some reason, but we'll try to get that hooked. Yeah, it just got unplugged when she got up and left. We got to watch that when people get up and down. We just go through the same issue every time people are live. I think we got a headset with guests or something because this is like Groundhog Day. But that's basically the question. I mean, what is your overall point on that front, sir?
My point is that when I lived in a community that actually had the cameras everywhere, and you could walk from one end of town to the other and you were being watched on a camera, the conservative Christians didn't have anything to do with protesting against it. They just refused to do anything. And
well, that's because their churches are totally run by government agents. It's called clergy response teams. What's your thank you for the call, sir. Great point. What's your take on the mainline Christian church just saying, hey, take chips, cameras, take forced shots, everything's wonderful, forced abortion, it's all good, because we're all going to be teleported out of here with a rapture?
Yeah, you know, that's funny, because when we were protesting, I did a prayer vigil outside of the Alzheimer's facility where they were chipping the Alzheimer's patients, actually sticking it into the arms of Grandma. They had 200 people that they were chipping. And I tried to find a local church in West Palm Beach, Florida, that would have somebody come out and join me and lead the prayer. And I called church after, I got the phone book, and I called church after church after church. And they all said, either, we think that's a great idea. Why would you oppose that?
They're of the devil.
Or they said, well, you're showing a lack of faith by even objecting to that. Don't you know we're all going to be raptured away? So the Bible is very ambiguous.
They're going to accept the devil.
Whether there is or isn't, whether there is or isn't a rapture, it doesn't.
You're to fight evil.
I got to say that if the folks who believe in a rapture are wrong, then here's what's going to happen. When it actually does come time to either put your head in the guillotine and be beheaded or take the mark of the beast, you know that the devil's going to be saying to all the Christians who believed in the rapture,
this is Jesus.
They're going to say, no, they're actually going to say, your God isn't real. He didn't save you. That's all a fairy tale.
Oh, these people, it's so demonic, these churches. Well, let's jam in a call. Julius. First up was Mike in Tennessee, 1600 AM, WMQM, I believe, is the call letters. Go ahead, Mike.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jones and Dr. Albright. February 4th was a deadline for completing your United States 2012 Census of Agriculture, which required you to list everything that you have on any piece of farming property, animals and everything. And yesterday was the deadline.
Yeah, I don't fill any of it out. It's all fraudulent. And they lie and say U.S. code, you have to do it. U.S. code, you just got to see how many people live there. It's all a fraud. But, yeah, the census is part of this.
This is the agriculture census. Yesterday was the deadline for the Federal Animal Disease Traceability Rule. It took effect yesterday, requiring tattooing, tagging, and otherwise marking of every animal.
Let's stay there. I'm going to come back to you. We're doing a little bit of overdrive, but let me just explain something to everybody, okay? We have a ranch. We have a farm. The animal ID, the premises ID, it's all color of law. They tell you it's the law to vaccinate your kids. There is no law in any state in the union. There's a waiver you get for it, but it's not even a waiver to a law, it's a regulation. It's a hoax. And yes, I'm aware of all that. We'll come right back to you, but this is part of the takeover of the food supply. Stay with us. Katherine Albrecht's also going to be on the nightly news tonight. I think Melissa Melton's hosting it. I meant to get to all your calls. It's so much important information. Mike in Tennessee, listening on 1600 AM. We got a lot of affiliates in Tennessee. That's a great affiliate right there. But Mike, go ahead and make your point, sir.
I'm just looking at the incrementalism, and as Catherine was talking earlier about how they enact this stuff, and then they immediately come out with the follow-up. And, yeah, everybody needs to wake up. I mean, there was on the news the other night, they were showing car crashes in Germany, where in Germany, every car has a dashboard cam. So they can, in real time, see what's going on from the dashboard of your cars. They no longer need cameras over the interstates. Every car is a moving
I saw Toyota like 6 years ago say in the future a camera will watch you and call the police if your kid isn't in a seatbelt, and the computer is smart and knows if they are. I mean, it's like 1984 times 10. And it's like, oh, what's the big deal? I mean, it's crazy. Just like I told people 15 years ago, OnStar listens to you. Later it came out. Well, I had an FBI source on that.
They did. And, you know, in San Antonio, we saw a vision of the future yesterday when we visited the vendor of this RFID tracking program, because they pulled up a screen for us. And on the screen, you could see the circles of the school. And then they could click on a circle and tell you how many people were in it. And then they could click and show you their picture, their school ID number, their grade, their name, all their personal information came up. And as we were driving, stopped at a traffic light, I said, in the future, there's going to be a circle, and the police are going to be able to pull up a circle of the entire city and click that intersection and know everybody who's there. And the only thing missing to make that possible is for all of us to carry the device that links into the global brain, and then it's done. So I actually saw the future yesterday. It was very
And again, they say, what's wrong with that? It's convenient. The global brain's run by the devil.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I mean, it's like, hey, it's just a babysitter. It's a cannibal. You know, it's like, what's wrong with the babysitter? It's the guy next door neighbor's a cannibal. Yeah. He's a convicted cannibal.
Not a good.
Just got out of jail for 40 years. It's like the guy running the machine. It's not nice.
Not a good babysitter. Exactly. And that's the whole thing. If we could actually trust government and we could trust our fellow human being to be perfect all
this stuff would be great.
Then it'd be great. You'd go, sure, that sounds like a perfect idea. But the reality, we have thousands.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's keep mentally ill people from having guns. The problem is you on record want all our guns.
Yeah.
Stop trying to sound reasonable.
Well, and how long before they say we're mentally ill? Because they're
already doing that. Let's jam in another one. Steve in Pennsylvania, listening via InfoWars audio streams. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good, buddy. Go ahead and talk to Catherine.
All right. Hey, I've been trying for the past 2 weeks to call in, and I just keep getting hit with, you know, the busy signals and everything else. So I was able to get in. I've been in the military for 6 years. I'm currently a college student. I've been taking political science. I've been up in the ante on everything and anything, you know, that I read, that I hear. We're doing a lot of research online with the whole, you know, Sandy Hook thing and the whole weapons confiscation that they want to push, that they're trying to push down in the Beltway. You know, I'm drawing my line in the sand. They ain't getting my guns.
I know, and they know that. So that's and do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, with the 2 billion bullets, they're federal non-military agencies and organizations, right? They're getting the 2 billion bullets.
It's every federal agency that packs heat.
Okay,
but it's non-military, yes.
All right. You know, with being in the military, you start to see a lot more of what's really going on. A lot of the kids in my political classes I've had in college, they didn't know a damn thing when you get down to it. I mean... No,
they're children. They're children. The public watches TV and knows how to act cool at a party. They don't know how the world works. I'm out of time, brother, and I'm sorry the other callers. Retransmission starts now. I wanted to hear about smart meters from Mark in Canada and others, but Catherine's got to go tape for the nightly news, because they tape the interviews and do the news part live. So she's got to go because her own show's coming up.
Brave New Books.
Absolutely. Brave New Books tonight.
7 p.m.
And her own...
Austin.
You bet. It's down on Guadalupe. All our listeners know where that's at. And she's got to do her own show coming up in an hour.